So these are lofty ideas, and we've seen them over and over and heard them over and over again. But one of the things that the president said during his campaign was that he was going to hit the ground running. So my question is direct. When would the ministries be up and running? By that, I mean, when would the ministers be sworn in?
To your question about government up and running, it's very important to understand that in the absence of the ministers, government has not slowed down an inch. Because you have permanent secretaries that go back to the last administration that have all the institutional memory, and they have been stepping in, performing the functions of the ministers. So in some ways, or this is the irony, in some ways, the permanent secretary that's operating in the minister's capacity as of now has more institutional memory and understanding of what's going on than even the new ministers when they come on and they have to learn everything from scratch and all of that. You would find that it's actually the permanent secretaries now that would ensure that things actually go a little bit quicker. There's always a small slowdown period when new chief executives enter into a place and they have to pick up and implement policy and all of that. So my point is to say that ministers will be sworn in at some point within the next 2 weeks. They have to go through an orientation retreat through the office of the secretary to the government of the federation, after which they will now be sworn in. But the point is government has not in any way slowed down. In fact, because of what I've just mentioned, it's been able to take off from the last administration very seamlessly.
We heard that El-Rufai withdrew his interest in getting a ministerial role and went ahead to nominate a replacement. Can you confirm or refute this story that is going around?
Unfortunately, I do not. As I'm sitting here, I have no official word on that. I did see the report. I absolutely did see the report in an online news publication, just the way everybody else did. But I have no idea about the details of it or whether it's true or whether it's false. It's the first time I'm even being asked about it. But I do believe that probably the Department of State Security would be in a vantage position to be able to make a very clear statement on whether or not that is true.
I wanted to take you to a question I've asked a few times, and since I know that you are closer to the president than I am, you might be able to help us convey this particular question. Nigerians want to know how the government is specifically cutting costs in governance. And while I might not be able to, you cannot answer for the House of Assembly, you can answer for the presidency. What is the presidency and the president doing to cut the cost of governance as it applies to the executives? Because we were all shocked at the number of people that got nominated for ministerial lists, that this was the biggest list, not when we're trying to cut costs. How would you address the mindset of the president now? And we hope you help us convey that we want to know in clear terms and naira and kobo how he's cutting costs.
Fantastic question. So let's take this bit by bit. On the one hand, yes, the nomination of ministers, there has been some public reaction to the effect that, are these not too many and things like that. And we understand the thinking, of Nigerians who have expressed some trepidation or caution about that. But for those of us who have the privilege of engaging with Mr. President, we fully understand that what he's trying to do and what he is doing is to professionalize government. He wants to enhance specialization within our federal ministries, departments, and agencies. And part of that has to do with the fact that he came in and recognized that the current structure of government is too condensed. So you have one ministry, for example, ministries like Ministry of Works and Housing. Housing is a big deal in Nigeria. It's not a small thing. We're talking of where Nigerians are putting their head at night and all of that, where the difference between whether you're sleeping outside or sleeping under a shelter is under the authority of institutions like this, and is being conjoined with Works that is managing all federal roads in the country. What Mr. President said is, look, it's in the best short to medium term and long term interest of Nigerians for us to have one minister who is in charge of each segment of these very massive component parts of what were very loaded ministries before, probably a bit too burdensome for one individual actor and the like as it was before, to say, look, if we have one person that's dedicated to housing as against one person trying to juggle and manage the same 24 hours we all have between two major priorities, let's have one person deal with each one. That way we can get maximum value and maximum attention paid to the problems within those individual sectors. It's the wisdom of the president. He understood that there would be some public reaction, that some people will be unhappy with the optics of it and all of that. But he recognized that this is in the interest of the country, and he took that decision. So there are several ministries like that. The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, disaster management, and I think social development or something like that. There are three different components there that you can break up into individual pieces. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, same thing. You can have Ministry of Agriculture on one hand and Ministry of Rural Development on another hand, that deals with the rural economy, that deals with rural infrastructure and the like. So this is the case across several ministries, and the president understands this, and that's why he chose to create specialization and bring in a few more hands to deal with the new structure of government. Now, with that said, as we split these ministries, I want to emphasize this point. We are not having to now employ a whole bunch of new bureaucrats and civil servants. That's the mistake people are making. Just because you split ministries doesn't mean you have to now add to your recurrent. No. What we're going to do is we have an existing pool of oftentimes redundant senior directors in various ministries, duplication of roles amongst various directors, assistant directors, deputy directors. They will now be split across these ministries so that you don't have all of this excessive duplication because of over-recruitment in the past. We'll be able to actually put people to work that have for years now have just been in their offices reading newspapers at the expense of Nigeria's economy. So it's a good thing for the country. What I will say also is that in terms of saving government expenditure, the president has already said, and he means it, that he's dusting off the Aronsai report. We are going to restructure our MDAs. Fundamentally, I'm not just talking of splitting ministries now. I'm talking about what we do with this massive pool of redundant staff, and how we can empower them, not just throw them out and leave them to their own devices or leave them to their fate. No. But we're going to develop a plan of transition so that we can bring down our recurrent and also totally reform our recruitment process. So it's not a matter of, oh, this minister is from Rivers State. As a result, he'll be looking for people from, he'll be looking at people from different local government areas of his state to flood into the federal civil service as a form of political reward and all of that. Those days are over. We want professionals. We want first-class graduates. We want the best of the Nigerian youth to be going into the civil service as against just the private sector. There's a lot that has to be done.
Yes, so I wanted to ask about the Bosu's appointment. So we remember that Bosu's screening generated a lot of controversy last week. And it was based on the fact that he had said some things, and Nigerians commended the senators for being very forgiving. But we wanted to understand what pre-qualified him to be nominated in the first place from the president's perspective. And
let me throw in my own question because of time. So aside from the Dr. Bosu Tijani's question, also the Southeast are complaining that they only got 5 slots in the ministerial nomination. How does your president react to that, or how do you react to that?
So, of course, in the compilation of any cabinet, the Constitution is very clear, which is that each state must be able to produce a minister of the federal cabinet, right? All of those constitutional requirements have been satisfied. Yes, we can, there's always this tendency to, there's this movement of the goalposts we see on some of these issues, right? Where we'll say, okay, he may have done this one, but what about this one? When he does this one, what about this one? So, for example, now, you would have a situation where, let's just assume for a moment, Mr. President put in place 15 ministers from the 5 southeastern states, for example. Let's just say 3 per state, right? Another person will be able to say, okay, yes, fine. He produced 15 ministers from 15 Nigerian ministers from Igbo land and all of that. But look at the security agencies. There's not a single Igbo man or Igbo woman in the security agencies. Look at CBN. There's not a CBN governor from Igbo. There's always a movement of the goalposts. That marginalization discussion is never satisfied. That's the point. I'm saying this as somebody who has been in government, operating in this capacity now for 8 years, engaging in questions and answers on these issues. There is always, take it from me, there is always a movement of the goalposts. Nothing is ever good enough. So what I will just say on this is that constitutional requirement has been satisfied. There are many federal appointments that are still coming, big ones as well, that will still come. And I think it's way too early in the day for any region to say that it is being shortchanged. Let's watch and see how government forms, and then when it's fully formed, we can now come to the table and people can now present their opinions.
Who, no matter what you say, no matter how you say, will say you're still lying. You know how Nigerians are very cynical. You know, as Dr. had said earlier, you know, we've been battered, bruised, lied to for many years, you know. And even when we see a government who's trying to put things in place, and from the APC perspective, it's like things are going to go worse before it gets better. You know, so where we are right now, Naira was 950 Naira to the dollar, you know. So things are really bad. So no matter what you say now, there are cynics who are going to say, they've started lying again. See all the grammar they are speaking. They're not even listening to what you're saying. How do we carry those kind of people along in helping them see better? Hopefully they can do better.
Mariah, this is such an important question you've just asked. Because, you see, my first press conference as the official spokesperson of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I took my time to explain to Nigerians that we will not do business as usual. We recognize that we have, when I say we, I'm talking of public sector in Nigeria, the Nigerian government as a bloc, not party, not individual now, just the notion of Nigerian government. We have earned the skepticism of Nigerians. Nigerians have every reason not to believe us. We're talking decades now of maladministration. And even the pockets of good that we have done, compared to the mountains of bad that has been done, it's almost inconsequential in the minds of Nigerians. So when President Muhammadu Buhari completed the second Niger Bridge, built 5 new international airports, put new railways in the southwest, new Lekki Port in the southwest, and all the other things that have been done by the previous administration, you find that he still had to grapple with decades worth of mistrust, decades worth of anger, and all of that from the Nigerian populace. So it's something that is ongoing. But what we are going to do is we are going to level with Nigerians and ensure that from the position of government, particularly those of us who are spokespeople, media functionaries, I said it in my initial press conference, we will not be arrogant. We will not talk down on Nigerians. We will not be those spokesmen that are condescending. They think they're higher than everybody. They're better than everybody because they're in political office. We know where we came from. So what we are saying is that we will level with Nigerians. We will be humble in our approach, and we will be honest with Nigerians. So what we believe is that if we do that, if we level with people, and we treat Nigerians with respect. We don't insult them. We don't show this condescending mindset, arrogant attitude toward them. That there's a mutual respect that develops where people will listen to you because they know that you respect them. And I do respect Nigerians. And spokesmen under this government know that under the leadership of the president, there will be zero tolerance for any of that arrogant, condescending and insulting nonsense, online or offline. So for us, the focus is going to be on saying, look, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going to deliver. This is the timeline that we're going to deliver on. So that once we meet that timeline, you will now say, yes, this government is building trust with us. If we fail to meet that timeline, then Nigerians will rightly say, this government is the same as all those other years of maladministrators and all of that. So that is the focus. Openness, humility, and constant direct communication with Nigerians, telling them what we can do and what we can't do. But what we will not do is we will not be baited and tempted to tell Nigerians what is not true. Because the temptation, let me just give you a practical example. The economic crisis that the country is currently facing, the temptation on a spokesperson like me is to come out and say, all is going to be well in a week. Everything will be okay and everybody will see some form of succor. I want to be able to say that. But I don't say that because I'm disciplined and I'm determined to be honest with our people. So I'll tell you, look, this thing is going to be 6 to 9 months on the first phase of CNG because that is the timeline that we were given by NIPCO, and we're going to deliver that timeline. But I will not tell you what is true, but sometimes Nigerians, out of their pain, right, and their frustration, which is understandable, they're saying, look, we want you to tell us what you're doing today, and I want to tell you what we can do today, but I don't want to lie to you, because I want to build trust with you. So that's always the challenge that we have. But I can assure you, we're going to do things very differently.
It's on social media for you. Is it true that the president is living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Aso Villa?
That is true. The president is in the glass house, and it is a very small place.